'Twas the year 1998. Crash Bandicoot, Sony's unofficial mascot, rival to Mario, supreme overlord of shitty vehicle levels, dropped his third game, Crash Bandicoot Warped. Little did he know, Insomniac and Sony were cooking up another 3D platformer to put up against the overrated giant known as Mario 64. And what we got out of it was a fantastic trilogy of games that are still being played and loved by many. And that little guy can be known as Spyro the Dragon. While Crash was busy getting spin-offs and delivering probably the greatest kart racer of all time, Spyro was keeping the amazing platformers Sony gave us at the time alive, and what an adventure it all was. Much like Crash, the Spyro the Dragon trilogy is highly regarded as some of the best platformers in existence. Here we are years later with this completely unoriginal idea I thought of. I've decided to review the trilogy and the infamous PS2 debut of Spyro the Dragon, and I'm sure you guys are excited as I am for this project. It's gonna be great. Hey, have you guys noticed that Spyro's initials spell out STD? Huh. You learn something new every day. Back in 1998, Insomniac gave us Spyro the Dragon, a beautiful 3D platforming collectathon that won the hearts of many in such a short period of time. And honestly, can you blame them? This trilogy is filled to the brim with charm, crazy, and fun adventures, as well as gorgeous visuals accompanied by an amazing soundtrack. The games have a lot of personality and still hold up for 20 years later. It was especially groundbreaking for the time because of how it rendered everything and reduced large amounts of fogging, making the game look even more big and beautiful. I was never as big of a fan for Spyro compared to Crash, but regardless, these were the franchises that got me into the world of games, and I'll always be grateful for those amazing times. But enough about that, let's jump in and start talking about Spyro. So the story for Spyro the Dragon starts off with a TV interview with one of the Elder Dragons and Spyro sexually harassing a sheep in the background. Later, another dragon cuts in while they talk about Nasty Nork, the main villain, and delivers some serious heat, calling him simple, ugly, dumb, and yeah, okay. Nasty hears those awful words, and before he goes into his room and continues his self-loathing, he encases all the dragons in crystal except for Spyro, because if he did, we wouldn't have a game to play. Now Spyro has to travel through levels collecting gems and freeing dragons and stop Nasty Nork and his evil plan. The story is obviously very underwhelming and filled with lots of kiddie shit, far from the cartoonier yet still kinda dark nature of the Crash Bandicoot titles with the story. No surprises there though. And now we're off, running around various locations like the Artisan's World, Magic Crafters, and the Peacemaker's World just to name a few, collecting gems and freeing dragons encased in crystal thanks to Nasty. This game is very similar to how Mario 64 is set up. You run around in a wide open space in Hub World with level portals to go into, except here, it feels much cooler and much better since every level portal you go and load into makes it feel like you're actually going on an adventure and traveling. I like that a hell of a lot better than simply jumping into a magical painting. Every level has you going around defeating Nasty's minions, breaking chests, and collecting gems and freeing the Elder Dragons, our main collectible. When freed, they talk and give you advice and help guide the young hero Spyro on his adventure through these dangerous worlds. They're essentially teachers to Spyro. That's the way Insomniac intended it anyway, but in reality, they are extremely useless and offer nothing useful to your adventure. Plus, 90% of these old farts say this.
Thank you for releasing me!
You know, man, I'm starting to completely regret that decision. Back in your crystal you go. Now, of course, you also have the gems to collect. There are not only plenty of gems to collect in the levels you travel to, but there are a bunch to find in the hub world themselves. And in certain cases, they also help you progress as a certain amount is required to move on to the next hub world in one scenario. You also have dragon eggs that you get from chasing down these annoying fucks, the egg thieves, who for some reason run at high speeds like a bunch of crackheads. The dragon eggs are ultimately useless, they don't do anything for the game and are really only there for the 100% bonus. It's quite fun running around these open and gorgeous looking levels. Spyro controls pretty well and has his flame attack, charging ability, and this weird dodge roll that I completely forgot he had. But trust me, you don't ever need to use it. Spyro can glide from high heights as well, and it's still as fun as ever traveling through the air in these levels exploring and collecting gems. Really, the gameplay can be summed up in a few words. Main one coming to mind is satisfying. Breaking a bunch of chests, flaming a bunch of enemies, running around, flying through the air, and exploring and collecting loads of treasure will forever be fun and satisfying. Mixing that in with how well the game controls and the gorgeous visuals, and you have yourself a game you can easily find yourself getting immersed into. Not only that, but the game is accompanied by an amazing soundtrack by the legend himself and one of the greatest drummers in the music industry, Stuart Copeland. It was said that he played every single level to get a feel for it before creating the track for it. And it shows. The music in this game fits every single level, and it's all so amazing.
You mind not interrupting me when I'm working?
There's literally not a bad song in this game. It's perfect and truly helps with the immersion. But then you get into a level like Treetops and have nothing but anger and regret. This level is by far one of the worst in the trilogy. I don't care who you are or what you say, fuck this level. Aside from the speedways and treetops, there really isn't a bad level in this game. You could find enjoyment in just about all of them. Another cool thing I love about this game is the health bar system. You have this little guy named Sparks. He's not only Spyro's best friend, but also his guardian and protector. Sparks is used as Spyro's health bar. Gold is him at full health, and he turns red, then green after getting hit. If you get hit one more time after his green color, he disappears and you're on your own with one final hit. You realize how important Sparks is as well, because he's the one that actually collects the gems for you. If you're in the general vicinity of the gems, he'll fly over and grab them for you. Without him, you're kinda stomping around like an idiot and picking them up yourself. There's also boss fights in this game, and I say that with giant air marks. I didn't even know these things were considered boss fights. I didn't know what they were. They have got to be some of the poorest excuses for boss fights in a game I've ever seen. You dodge attacks, flame them 3 times each and chase them down, and then case closed. There's no build-up, no development between them and Spyro, and it makes it very hard to actually care about the fights and the characters. It sucks, because they do have some pretty cool designs, but the fights themselves are pretty terrible. And as satisfying as the game is, and as fun as the gameplay can be, I must admit, as I got deeper in the game, I found myself feeling a little bored or kind of annoyed even. I felt like the entire game was very lacking and didn't have too many things to do aside from going in, free dragons, collect gems, and then dip. I guess that becomes more apparent after playing the 2 games after this one, but that's unfortunately how I feel about it. Cool locations and satisfying gameplay, but unfortunately it can get old fairly quick. Even the speedways don't help break up the gameplay and changing things up. Those have always been a chore to go through in my opinion. On top of that, I feel like there isn't much of an incentive to collect these gems aside from 100% completion. You only ever needed a certain amount to go to the next hub world, but that's about it. Some can make the same argument with the crates and the Crash games, but those have a bigger use than the gems in the first Spyro game in my opinion. Now of course, what I'm saying isn't me hating the game. I love the first Spyro game. But I can't deny the fact that it does get tiresome playing through the game sometimes with having little to do and almost no incentive with collecting certain items. It's all kinda just there if you know what I mean. Moving on, after playing through, collecting, and finishing off the last of the levels, we're on to the final gauntlet. You play through 2 more levels that are honestly kind of challenging the first time around and finally fight Nasty Nork. And of course, it's very underwhelming. It's the same as the others. After chasing down the Egg Thieves and collecting keys to get to Nasty, you just chase them down and flame them a couple of times and then case closed. If you 100% the game and collected everything, you get a badass level where you could free fly and collect a whole bunch of gems, and there's even a treasure room filled with them. Now that is a badass 100% reward. The most satisfying thing about the game, but supersized. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That just about wraps up the first Spyro game. A fun 3D platformer with great level design, beautiful visuals, and a kick-ass soundtrack, as well as some pretty satisfying gameplay overall. While I had lots of fun with the title and have lots of nostalgia for it, I can't deny the fact there are quite a few flaws present that became more noticeable playing through it again this time around. The game is lacking variety within its levels and can feel very tiresome. All that is also accompanied by some of the most pitiful boss fights in gaming, and again, I feel like there isn't much of an incentive with collecting certain items in the game. Overall, Spyro the Dragon lands a 6 out of 10. I think that's a pretty fair rating for the first game. Regardless of its flaws, there's still a fun and satisfying adventure awaiting in this title, and I'm very happy that I got to play through it again and review it for you guys. The ride doesn't stop here. I know this one was a little bit short, but we still have 3 more games to check out, and it only gets better, and then gets worse after the 3rd one. Be sure to come back next time as we take a look at the franchise's peak and one of my favorite games of all time, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, or if you're not American, Gateway to Glimmer. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Comment down below and let me know what you think about Spyro, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. This is Jaybills Games signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.